Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Purple Penny weekly coin video. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. The Purple Penny is a small coin, banknote and collectibles dealer in Mawson Lakes, which is a suburb in the sort of inner north of Adelaide, about 15 minutes north of Adelaide, right near a train station. So if you're ever in Adelaide and you want to come out and say hello, check our opening hours. It's a short train ride, less than 10 minutes, and about a 5-minute walk from the train station to here. We've been here for a bit over 4 years, doing these videos for about 3 years or so, and trying to share coin and banknote news from Australia and around the world, as well as have a topic of the week. I'd like to thank Peter for giving me a call before and sharing his observations on the Perth Coin and Banknote Expo, which happened over the weekend. He said that the crowds were definitely down on the last show that was there, but that dealers still were doing reasonably well. That kind of mirrors what we've been seeing here in the shop over the last couple of months. There's no doubt things have slowed down, and that's simply because life is returning back to pre-COVID normal, whatever that is, and people worrying about money and going on holidays and increased interest rates and all of that good stuff. So I guess, what does that mean for all of us? It means that maybe some of this rubbish around bots and things like that will dissipate when those people with those predatory secondary market sales practices move on to something else, because there's not the money to be made from new releases, and I think that's probably a good thing for everyone. It allows the collectors to get their hands on things, and hopefully allows the mint to be able to sell things through their website again, which they weren't able to do last month because of the problems they've been having with that. I know they're trying their hardest, and hopefully they get it sorted out soon. Right, let's jump into the news here. We'll be closed next Friday, so not this Friday coming up, but Friday afterwards. That's the shop here, will be closed. Website will be operating as normal, so if you are a local or someone who's planning on bringing something in to show us, please keep that in mind, that we will be closed next Friday, the 28th of July. We'll just say a few hellos to people here. Thank you everyone for joining in today. Hello Justin, Patrick, Michelle, John, Peter, Adam, Stephen, Aaron, Pal, Sandra, Ray. Yes, Stephen, tightening of the purse strings. There's no doubt that's what's happening at the moment. Really great story that popped up in the news this week, and thank you to a couple of people who shared it with me, about a gentleman in Kentucky who found 700 Civil War era gold coins in a field in the USA. US Civil War went from late 1861 to mid 1865, and during that period there was a lot of uncertainty, as you would imagine, as the different states aligned themselves with the different sides of that conflict. And of course, like so many other times in conflict, people with excess money buried it, and there wasn't a lot of trust in banks, and as a consequence this gentleman has found over 700 coins buried in a field. The exact location and the name of the gentleman haven't been disclosed. The coins date from 1840 to 1863. Almost all of them are tiny little gold dollars. 95% of them are gold dollars. But there's also 20 $10 coins. $10 coins have about half an ounce of gold in them, and 8 $20 coins, they have just under an ounce of gold in them. They're all 90% gold, which is the standard that America uses with their gold coins, and that they mostly continue to use to today. It is postulated that when they were buried, Kentucky was still neutral. So Kentucky was initially neutral in the American Civil War, and there was concern that Confederate raiders would come through the state and pillage and loot to obtain people's money, and that perhaps these coins were buried then. Now, it wasn't apparently an uncommon practice. There are still letters existing of very rich people that lived in Kentucky burying their gold coins, including one gentleman who's supposed to have buried $20,000 in face value of gold coins and then fled his estate and never returned to recover those coins. So 20,000 in face value, so that could be up to $1,020 coins. Quite remarkable. What is really interesting about this find in particular is that all of the $20 coins are of the same date, and they are a particularly scarce year, and in mint state fetch $100,000 or more. So really quite a remarkable find. All of the coins have been authenticated by NGC. No doubt they're going to have some provenance noted on the holder and will come up for sale in probably a very large auction, I would imagine. So yeah, what a really interesting news story there. Next news story was came out of Queensland, actually. A gentleman was advertising 1 ounce gold bars on Facebook Marketplace and meeting up with people, selling them for cash out the front of a service station. Totally not dodgy at all. One of the people who bought one of these gold bars actually took it off to have it tested and found that it was gold-plated copper. And the police actually arrested the gentleman in question out the front of the same service station for selling counterfeit goods and for theft. The gold bars themselves were being sold for about $100 to $200 under spot, cash only, meeting in the car park of a service station. And as the police person said in the article that I read, go to a reputable dealer, something with bricks and mortar. Don't meet on the side of the road at a service station. The moral of the story here is that, of course, if the deal seems too good to be true, then it probably is. You can generally get spot price or very close to spot price for 1 ounce gold bars from bullion dealers. You wouldn't need to go and sell them via Facebook Marketplace on the side of the road. You'd actually get more money doing it honestly. Next story was one that I found really interesting. It was to do with Japan, and Japan is one of the remaining developed countries in the world where cash usage remains high. And I've heard stories of people not being able to eat or drink because the ATMs run out of cash during the Christmas to New Year break. And cash handling is still a big thing in Japan, and they have particular customs about how cash is handled in shops and restaurants and so on. But it turns out for the last 18 months in a row, the amount of coins in circulation has actually dropped, and in the last 10 years, electronic transactions have grown from 15% to over 36%. Now, that is probably not unusual, you would imagine, because that's certainly what's been happening here in Australia. But what is really interesting about this story is a particular cultural habit that the Japanese have that I wasn't aware of, and that was the gifting of 500 yen coins to children. A 500 yen coin is quite a high face value. It's about $5.30 Australian. And apparently relatives give children 500 yen coins, and those children put them in money boxes, and then they take them and deposit them in the bank. And it is a good way of children saving and young people of saving. But it turns out that banks don't want to deal with coins, and they've actually implemented a 1100 yen fee on over-the-counter transactions with excessive amounts of coins. With unemployment quite high in Japan, inflation non-existent, economic growth non-existent, Japanese people themselves are quite conscious of not paying extra fees. So as a result, that tradition of handing out 500 yen coins is dying off, and that those 500 yen coins in circulation are dropping right away. But interestingly, notes are not really dropping at all, so it is just the coins that are falling away. David Trotter says he's just got back from Japan and very surprised to hear that the vast majority of shops still only accept cash. It is a fascinating cultural phenomenon, David, that a technologically advanced country like Japan still primarily deals in cash. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it is something if you're visiting the country you do need to be aware of. Hello, Antonius. John Sharp visited from Victoria this week. John's come in a few times before from Victoria. It was a pleasure having him here in the shop. Thank you, John, for watching. John says, "Good morning, Mark and Catherine. Enjoyed my visit to Mawson Lakes. Such an amazing display and array of items you have. Thank you, John. That is much appreciated. It was a pleasure to see you again." Hello, Cam. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Brandon. Brandon says those gold coins aren't scarce anymore. Well, Brandon, there was only 8 in the hoard of gold coins that were found, so in American collecting terms, they're still going to be fairly scarce, I would have thought. And David says 500 yen coins are also the standard and recommended offering at religious sites. Interestingly, David, we do handle a lot of sort of bulk world scrap here in the shop, and I have never seen a 500 yen coin. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of 100 yen coins, but never a 500 yen coin here in the shop, which was really interesting. Right, the next story isn't directly coin related, but is still interesting from an Australiana point of view. Some people in Queensland bought a property in central Queensland, a 4-hectare property in central Queensland, clearing out the garden sheds, and they found a gigantic silver birthday cake in a garden shed. And what it is a centenary of the centenary of Melbourne birthday clock cake. It's made from sterling silver. It's got a clock on it. There's 104 sterling silver and gilt candles on the cake, and it was produced in celebration of Melbourne's centenary in 1934. Now, in 1934, as part of the centenary celebrations, there was a cake baking competition, and the first prize in that competition was a sterling silver birthday cake made by James Steethen's son, which you may or may not have heard of before, but their claim to fame is that they made the Melbourne Cup, the actual trophy that is given out to the winner of the Melbourne Cup. Now, the sterling silver birthday cake prize was never claimed by the winner, and it is found now in the National Gallery of Victoria. What had passed from the cultural memory, though, was that another silver birthday cake was created at twice the size for display purposes. Now, that cake was last sold at auction in the very early 1980s, and then has disappeared from the records and has been found again in a garden shed in pieces. Has been reassembled. Unfortunately, a few of the candles are missing, and has been sent down to Melbourne to be auctioned. Probably going to auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Probably going to end up in a museum, you'd imagine. But of all the things to find in a garden shed, all that's in our garden shed is a lawnmower and a whole bunch of unfinished garden projects. There's certainly no silver cakes in there. So pretty remarkable story, and an amazing find in a garden shed, and the fact that whoever had put it there had forgotten about it, and there it lay. Now, the other bit of news this week is that Philip Lowe, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, has not had his contract renewed, and we're going to get a new Reserve Bank Governor. That's Michelle Bullock, who's a career Reserve Bank employee. Why is that important to us? Because, of course, the next time they print banknotes, Michelle's signature will appear on those banknotes, and there will be a first prefix of those banknotes, and there will be a last prefix of those banknotes. So, you know, if you're a banknote collector, then that is going to be something to look out for, and no doubt people who have contacts inside the banks will be keeping their eye out for bundles of first and last prefix notes. Of course, the first prefix notes will all have AAs on them and the year of their printing, and the last prefixes are, of course, unknown at the moment. Now, does that mean that we're going to start seeing banknotes with her name on them straight away? No, there are stockpiles of pre-printed banknotes available to the Reserve Bank. I have heard, and I don't remember where, about the sheer number of $5 notes that were printed and then not distributed because of the economic slowdown due to COVID. So all of those will have to be exhausted before they think about printing any new banknotes with the new Reserve Bank Governor's name on them. So not necessarily directly to do with coins, but will affect banknote collectors, the new Reserve Bank Governor being announced last week. Last week we spoke about, what did we talk about? We talked about the Columbia Broadcasting Service in America, talking about safe ways of owning gold bars. So I thought what I'd do this week is follow on from that, and I thought it was relevant because of the gentleman in Queensland who was selling fake bullion, to just talk about other ways of holding gold. Why do you want to hold gold? I don't know. I'm not an investment advisor, but some people believe in holding gold and silver. And if you're interested in collecting coins, then you might be more interested in holding some gold as a coin rather than as a bar. What do I mean by bars? I mean these sorts of things here. These are PAMP bars. PAMP is a Swiss company that make bullion, and these are carded bars, and this is a half-ounce fine gold bar. Perth Mint make the same sort of thing. There's also, of course, normal bars that aren't carded, so you might have seen us from time to time have Peter W. Beck 1 ounce gold bars. Now, they're pretty, these. They are pretty, but they are faked a lot. They also are only generally available directly from bullion dealers. They're not something that we have very often here. And if you are a coin collector, you might be more interested in holding gold in another form rather than as a bar. The other thing I believe is that it is harder to create a convincing fake gold coin than it is to create a convincing fake one of these. There are very good fakes of these that have excellent packaging with all the correct labelling and things like that absolute experts may be able to pick as fakes, but for the average person they are quite easily duped. And certainly in here, before we got our XRF gun, we wouldn't buy these, because there are so many fakes of them around that it's just not worth the hassle of perhaps buying a fake one. So why would you buy a gold coin as gold? Well, because from my point of view, I think it's fascinating because it is gold. So it is a way of holding a good amount of value in a small item, and something that has some numismatic value as well. So we've got a few coins there that we've held over the years. The one at the top left there is a gold 4 ducat from Austria. It's a restrike. There's about 0.45 of an ounce of gold in that coin. It's 98.7% pure, so it is almost pure gold. And we have sold those anywhere from 5 to 15% above spot price. What does that mean? It means that the actual cost of the coin is about 5 to 15% above the actual value of the gold. Now, if you watched the video last week, you would have seen that CBS recommended that you buy gold at a low premium. So a big lump of gold like that at 5% above spot is actually a very low premium, and it's a coin. It's a really interesting coin with a long history. It's what's called a restrike. That means that the date on it, which is 1915, is not the date that it was minted. They have continued to strike those 4 ducat coins up until today. Initially, as an interesting bit of history, the reason why they did it is because the USA forbade the ownership of gold coins dated before 1920. I can't remember the exact year. So as a consequence, lots of European countries restruck coins with 1915 dated on them so that US people could still own the gold coins legally, and they still continue to be made to this day. There's a gold sovereign there at the bottom left. We often have them in here for only 8 to 10% above spot price. They're 22 carat gold coins with about 1/4 of an ounce of gold in them. Today they would be around $750 if we've got some bullion ones there. Now Patrick says an interesting thing here. I cannot afford gold, but is silver a good investment? Well, Patrick, you know, lots of people say to me they can't afford gold, but then they spend $400 on silver or on mint product or whatever it happens to be. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but $400 can buy you some gold. No, you don't end up with a very big piece of gold, but you still end up with some gold. And, you know, so you've got to, I guess, make your decisions about how you want to spend your money. We have half-gram gold coins in here from time to time that are less than $100. 1 gram gold coins from time to time as well. There's a display of half gram gold coins on one of the counters at the moment that Catherine has put together. The coin at the top right there and in the middle right, we've got some gold rubles there. Gold rubles, 5 rubles, 10 rubles, 15 rubles from the late 1800s and early 1900s sell again at just 5 to 10% above the gold price, which is about the same as what you could buy a gold bar for. They're 130-year-old coins. They have fabulous designs. They're 90% gold. And if you are interested in holding some gold, they can be a good way of doing that. Now, the middle coin on the right there is a Singapore coin. It's a 1969 $150 coin. It's 90% gold. I think there's about 3/4 of an ounce of gold in that. Not a coin that we've seen before. One that we bought a few weeks ago. Quite a low mintage in the low thousands. But again, barely sells for gold price. I think we sold it for just 2% above the gold price. And really, a really interesting way of holding gold. Now, I will just say, the one downside for holding non-common coins as gold is that it can be a little bit harder to get rid of them, because if you take them into a gold dealer, they'll have to test them or look them up to work out what the gold content is. Perhaps a little bit harder to sell to members of the public because they don't recognise exactly how much gold's in it. But I just think that if you're going to hold a bit of gold, then having some gold coins that you can sit there and look at and admire the design and also the heft of them. You're always surprised at how heavy a small gold coin is. It's a great thing to have in your collection, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. You know, as Paul said, was it Paul or Mike said, you can get a 10th ounce gold coin for about $350. Even the new released 10th ounce gold coins from the mint are only $395, which is about a 33% premium. Still a decent premium, but not completely out of the ballpark. So that's gold coins, and why I think they're a bit more interesting. Now, Brandon has asked a question here, and I don't understand the question. Mark, do you think the BRICS will release a gold coin? What's BRICS? Perhaps Brandon, if you could take the time to just type in the comments there what BRICS is, then I might be able to help you. Wendy says while she's been watching, she's been online shopping at the Purple Penny, multitasking at its best. Thank you for that, Wendy. And I will just say thank you, Wendy, for your lovely kind words about our service and the packaging that you sent us this week. It hasn't been the best week for us. Last week wasn't the best week for us from a motivation and enjoyment point of view. So when we do hear kind words from people like Wendy, it really does lift both of us up and makes us feel better about what we're doing, because it is a lot of hard work for not a lot of return in here, and I think we just like to know that we're doing the right thing from time to time. So I will wrap it up there unless Brandon can type in the comments what BRICS is, because I'm not sure what that is. Do keep an eye out on our Facebook this week. Okay, so Brandon says Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, a new financial alliance. Haven't heard of that one, Brandon. Don't know about that one. Yeah, no, it's the first I've heard of that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'll have a look at that later today. I'll get online and see if I can research some stuff about that. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for saying that we're great. We do try hard. Right, keep an eye on our Facebook this week. There will be some news this week to keep an eye out for. Do remember that we are not going to be open next Friday. The shop will be closed next Friday, so please plan around that if you are here in Adelaide. That's it. Thanks again to Peter for reporting on the Perth Coin and Banknote Expos. Much appreciated. Thanks, Daryl. I'm glad that you took part today, mate. I didn't say hello to you before, but hello, Daryl. Happy collecting, everyone. Stay safe. Bye for now, and we'll be back same time next week.